So, Friday, April 30th, 2021. Hey dude, any thoughts on Bored Apes? The art looks cool. This was late April. My mind was very much not on NFTs. The overall market was just weeks away from what would turn out to be the top. I ignored them. And how I regret that now, because Bored Ape Yacht Club has emerged to become one of the breakout hits of this crazy bull run, inspiring comic books, coffee beans, credit cards, endless copycats, and forcing copyrights into the spotlight. In this episode, we'll look at the reasons why BAYC might just have been the right project at the right time, talk to those involved, and try and understand where this is all going. From the ape side of life, this is the Defiant. There he is, an ape. To be more precise, he's my ape. We could give him a name like Brutus or Elijah, and we even maybe Jonah, because he feels to me like Jonah from Spider-Man, the beleaguered newsman with a cigar, constantly fighting for the day's story. And I guess that's why I identify with him, because every day I have to dig up a new news story for crypto, and it can feel at times like it's just too much. But that is the power of these things. We identify with them. And that is just one piece of why Bored Apes has captured people's imaginations. And while we ponder on that, let's take a moment to listen to our sponsors. Don't let high gas costs keep you out of Ethereum. The balance of the gas-optimized Vault architecture makes trading cheaper than anywhere else. Liquidity providers can optimize their fee earnings using the dynamic fee system that automatically adjusts to market conditions. You can also use asset managers to lend out idle assets, dramatically increasing your capital efficiency. Because Balancer is an open platform for flexible, automated markets, you can also choose from stable pools or weighted pools. And in the future, more designs will be created that they don't even know about yet. So check it out at balancer.fi. Do you remember your first DeFi transaction? I know I do. Sort of. After juggling 5 or more tabs on your browser, you gazed at that Etherscan confirmation, feeling like you just contributed to the future of finance. Except every chance you got quickly lost in a world of gas prices, vaults, pools, degenerates, hard forks, and sushi chefs. Fortunately, Zerion has built the dream tool for managing your portfolio. Track all your token balances across wallets and chains, access every kind of DeFi asset, including indexes, pools, and yield strategies, and trade at the cheapest rates with no extra fees. And that is because Zerion sources liquidity from every decentralized exchange like Uniswap, 0x, and 1inch. No sign-up required, no fees, and a blissfully easy UI. Simply connect your wallet at app.zerion.io. Aave. Fun fact, the name is taken from the Finnish word for ghost, and it's a decentralized open source and non-custodial liquidity protocol on Ethereum. Depositors earn interest by providing liquidity to lending pools, while borrowers can obtain loans by tapping into these pools with variable and stable interest rate options. Deposit in Aave protocol and receive A tokens, which accrue interest every second right in your wallet. You can just see it going brrrr. Nice. Swap any of your assets at any time to get the best yields on the market. And for the devs out there, Aave features access to DeFi building blocks like flash loans and credit delegation. Aave protocol liquidity pools are now available on Ethereum and the sidechain Polygon. But enough of all that DeFi nonsense. Let's get back to the apes. I am not the only human experiencing the crypto equivalent of trouser twitch in the face of these simian nifties. Just check out this guy. Slide through Discord or Twitter and you're met by a strange mixture of euphoria, enterprise, and cult-like excitement. But it wasn't always like this. On April 23rd, 2021, the BAYC launched to the public without much noise. The pre-sale launch announcement in Discord was met with basically tumbleweeds. And a week later, maybe a few hundred apes have been created from the BAYC website. Was the main reaction. Up to that point, nobody had seen the art style. But then Friday, April the 30th, around 6:30 p.m. EST, the first images arrived. And from that point on, everything changed. It took just 12 hours. The word of these apes spread like wildfire. In the evening, news broke that big-time NFT buyers had bought in, like Jimmy, Blau, and Top Shot Fund, some even minting hundreds, and in Pranksy's case, around 1,000. 1,000! They eventually sold out in the early morning of April 31st. Overnight success. Now, almost instantly, profile pictures across social media were switched to the colorful apes, instantly becoming the new punk identifier for those who missed the original. Banana emojis appeared next to people's usernames. The hashtag #ApeFollowApe began trending immediately. You ape, me ape, ape friend. Apes were not just NFTs. They doubled as a membership to a swamp club for apes, where actually you couldn't really do very much. You could log into The Bathroom, a community canvas board on the BAYC site where you could paint 1 pixel at a time, so far so EOS pixels. And then there's also a lo-fi hip-hop radio channel on YouTube, but you don't actually need an NFT to be able to listen to it. So the club is, well, basically it just is owning one when it's now so difficult for anyone else to. But let's rewind. What exactly are these apes? And who created them? Well, the collection consists of 10,000 unique NFTs programmatically generated from over 170 different traits, including fur color, shirt, and headwear. And if all this sounds desperately familiar, then it should, because this is pretty much exactly the same mechanic that's behind CryptoPunks, the project that set the tone for peak insanity in the NFT market, with this COVID alien recently selling for $11.8 million at Sotheby's. Seen through that lens, Bored Apes looks not particularly original, nor particularly interesting. It's kind of just another copycat. So what were the team's aims when they designed the project?
The inspiration for the Bored Ape Yacht Club started with the bathroom, the members-only pixel board on our website. We wanted to create something with utility, with layers to it. And so we had this idea where the NFT would grant you access to an art board where you could collaborate only with other people who also own a token. The question then became, what would the NFTs themselves be of? At first we had this really high art concept, in the vein of Miro and Mondrian. Imagine token designs inspired by contemporary art that would grant you access to a drawing club of sorts. It sounded like a good idea for about a minute. Sharing the idea with a friend, she told us, the first thing people are going to draw on this is a giant dick. Which is obvious in retrospect, and exactly what later happened. So we had this idea for a collaborative art board that lives on the internet, gated by a token, and we realized this is much more like a dive bar bathroom than anything else. A really kind of shitty but awesome place where people Sharpie all over the walls. And we started to think, what kind of club would that be? Who would go there? What would your member ID for a club like that look like?
Take a moment to trawl through OpenSea, if you dare, and you will encounter literally hundreds of punk-style collectible projects, all trying to replicate their success, or at least pull in some dumb money, like you or me, hoping to catch the next one. Ironically, the verb to ape means to copy closely, but often clumsily and ineptly. But when people caught sight of the Bored Apes artwork, it was clear that it was neither clumsy or inept, not at all.
Believe it or not, I literally thought of it in a dream. The whole team immediately latched onto it after that, since it just felt so rich with possibility. With NFTs, we're working with visuals, so you want a simple image of a character, on its own, to convey a lot while also being flexible but inspiring enough for people to project their own story onto it. The name is really the other half of the NFT, and helps complete the experience. The name Bored Ape Yacht Club got our minds racing. We came up with a story. The year is 2031. Bitcoin and ETH have taken over the world. Everyone who aped into crypto is rich beyond their wildest dreams, but now they're just fucking bored, and they only want to hang out with like-minded fellow apes, away from everyone else. To do that, you've got to go somewhere special, a ramshackle yacht club deep in the Everglades that's not really a yacht club.
So personally, for the longest time, I just didn't understand the appeal of CryptoPunks. But over time, they kind of inserted themselves into my brain. They are a cultural signifier, a badge of honor. Their crudeness, a memified crypto rebuke to the overproduced, overprocessed sheen of modern life, and in particular, modern tech companies. Rawness given form, and through it, a kind of honesty. Okay, that is a reach. But there is a personal connection to punks that we now see repeated and amplified in apes. In many ways, it compares with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bear with me here. If Bitcoin is the OG, solid, simple, monolithic, and now the preserve of the very wealthy, then that is punks. And for those who missed out on Bitcoin's price increase, ETH represented the chance to see the same kinds of gains, but with many more games on the side, like ICOs or DeFi. That's apes. Now again, maybe this is a reach, but the idea of a class system is literally hard-coded into the DNA of these projects, as we'll see in a bit. And of course, as with everything else in crypto, the movement of the market is determined by the big boys. That is not a big boy. There was a moment when BAYC took off, and it appears to have originated in an NFT-focused Discord channel whose name I shall not repeat, but where hardcore art buyers were starting to feel the pinch of a declining market.
What intrigued me about Bored Apes was the aesthetics were great. I loved these apes. They had this wonderful backstory they developed on them that I could relate to. Someone who likes to have fun and be social. And their art was wonderful on the website. And this Bored Ape bar that you found yourself in, there was this interactive part of it where you could go into the bathroom and scribble something on the wall, which I thought was hilarious. And it was enough, especially with the roadmap, where I knew that they were thoughtful. But it wasn't enough for me to purchase something. To gain conviction, I actually have to talk to someone who's a part of the team. So I messaged the founder, and they immediately messaged me back. And we got into a conversation about how they felt they would like Bored Apes to grow and how the idea came about. And that really gave me enough conviction. Because when you have the founder that's open to having a conversation, and clearly they've been thoughtful about the roadmap, and their aesthetics are cool, well, now all of a sudden I'm a buyer. So I quickly bought 2 of them. And the process of looking at my Bored Ape, seeing all the traits, understanding that this could potentially be a part of a bigger community, I just wanted to get more involved. And so I bought 50 of them quite quickly. I think I was the first person to buy more than 10 of them. And really just joined the community and started to interact with people. And more people, of course, over the next 24 hours, they went from selling 200 to selling out, which was it was the first of its kind in this space. Now sellouts are happening more frequently as people see the success of Bored Apes and want to copy that. But it wasn't happening back then. Bored Apes has really blazed the trail there. And so everyone started to get on board. There was more and more momentum. And people started to get into this group with just an excitement that has never been seen before. So right after things sold out, there was just this amazing buzz in crypto Twitter. There was an amazing buzz on Discord. All the owners felt so pumped about this community. And people started to contribute ideas. And it just started to snowball. Momentum started to pick up. And the Bored Ape community started to think of itself really as value creators.
Also present in this group were many other big collectors, among them Jimmy, Blau, and Pranksy. And it is Pranksy himself whose behavior, more than anyone else, has helped shape the story around BAYC. So a bit of quick history here. Pranksy is a former game developer who famously made the mother of all asymmetric returns in NFTs, turning a $600 initial deposit into millions. He started with CryptoKitties, rode that up, and then continued flipping, most notably with NBA Top Shots. And the Pranksy playbook has kind of become notorious for investing heavily in projects at launch, snapping up a huge chunk of the supply, and becoming essentially the main market maker for a category which is almost defined by its difficulty in creating liquidity.
Hey man, I never intend to damage markets, I just support them, you know? I provide liquidity, I provide volume, I make things possible.
So, was it just business as usual for Pranksy, or did he see something else here in the early stages? Because the man went huge, buying up 1,000 apes, or 10% of the supply.
You know, the thing is, what I liked about Bored Apes is they passed the profile pic test, and they clearly had some quality, and they were relatively cheap too. You know, that FOMO curve stuff, none of that.
There is a lot of crap talked about Pranksy and his influence or otherwise on markets, but to ape owners, he is the prime example of someone who's done what they hope to, scraps their way to wealth by putting in the hours and just making it stick. This, like it or not, is a blue-collar story and one which resonates throughout the apes community. These are punks for the people, and that's reflected in their fair launch strategy, where all the NFTs were sold for the same price of 0.08 ETH. Now this seems normal now, but back then it wasn't. Same price for everyone, democratic, every ape an equal opportunity. But to understand apes properly, you need to understand its place in the timeline of popular NFT projects. So let's give ourselves some context by going back a little further in time to another project that briefly mesmerized NFT buyers with its combination of puzzles, mysteries, and arguably the highest quality of pure art that we've ever seen from a generative NFT project. So, Hashmasks, 16,384 artworks, which sold for a grand total of $16 million. And this was a big deal at the time. Kobe, he of Up Only fame, spent 6 figures on them and more. They were sold in tranches of increasing price. The earlier you bought them, the cheaper they were, and they started as low as 0.1 ETH, which was around $130 at the time, and rose all the way up to 100 ETH, or $130,000. But they came with a novel token called the NCT, which allows the owner to change the name of their hash mask, fundamentally changing the character of the piece and rendering at least a part of its value creation into the hands of the owner. Now, the team behind Hashmasks spent months and months working with an army of around 70 artists to create the pieces. And that attention to the actual artistic value of the collection is evident the moment you first lay your eyes on them. And Twitter was abuzz with puzzle enthusiasts sharing their discoveries, the hidden layers of meaning, and the connections between the pieces. They were the hottest of hotnesses in the hottest market in town, but then they weren't. Aww. In an interview with Decrypt, the creators of Hashmasks indicated that they believed their work was done. The masks are on their own now. We are not going to interfere. The mystery is part of the magic. Now, there isn't a huge amount of interest in Hashmasks now. The mystery's kind of played out, despite them remaining arguably the best example of generative art we've ever seen on blockchain. But of course, that is highly subjective. Now, one of the reasons punks became so popular was that owners began to use them as their avatars across social media, signaling being part of a gang, one of the few, OG, and it's still perceived as something of a flex in that regard. It's quiet, but confident. I'm old school. And it works because owners can, in some weird way, identify themselves in the punk that they own. They see something of themselves in that weird 24x24 image. I just don't think you can do the same thing with Hashmasks. Beautiful they are, but they feel distant, at arm's length, kind of inaccessible. And then came the apes. The name itself fits perfectly with the image of the degenerate blockhead, but the apes themselves are also highly expressive. The art itself captures the feeling of being in this space with all its savage ups and downs and devilish black humor. They're just fun. And unlike the masks, here it's easy for owners to identify themselves in the artwork. But there is a little bit more going on here, because there are many, many, many flavors of ape, but they are all fundamentally apes. By contrast, there are 5 different types of CryptoPunks. There are male, female, ape, zombie, and alien. And rightly or wrongly, this creates a class system within the project where aliens are the elite. With Bored Apes, the feeling of a blue-collar working man's punk is only reinforced here, and I wonder if it was intentional.
The artwork was inspired by our upbringing. We grew up in the cultural melting pot of Miami, where we skated and BMX'd and drank half our 20s away in a parking lot behind the local punk bar, talking shit about music, movies, and books. Our love of Miami, 90s hip-hop, 80s hardcore punk, skateboarding, crypto culture, all that helped us imagine the look of the club. The NFT scene was pretty dead while we were working on the BAYC, so the only way we could stay psyched working so hard on this and throwing all our money at it was by making it as ridiculous as possible. Our feeling was, if we're probably going to go broke doing this, we might as well be ourselves. We even took inspiration from the bar that Gordon and Gargamel first met at in Miami.
Yeah, the tone of the team of the project, the set primary price, and the fact, hey, you, me, anybody that buys them holds the full rights to the ape NFT that you own, because you own that.
The Bored Apes community is kicking. Celebrities openly declare their love. The Discord is a fun place to hang out, although it can feel a little bit like a cult at times or a children's playground, depending on what time of day you go in there. But you can say that about any successful project's community. It is a brotherhood of the ape. And like any tightly knit community, you get to see the true power when that community is under attack. Now, after the initial excitement, many early buyers were looking to flip out and move on, and most undoubtedly expected the apes to be consigned to history with the gazillion other collectibles projects out there. Goodbye, see ya, sayonara. But two things conspired to change the narrative. Firstly, Pranksy, who owns 10% of the supply, didn't flip.
I was feeling pretty good. The market was moving. And then all of a sudden, it started to go quiet. What happens in this space, people lose interest, they move on to the next project. But I did something in that moment because I had conviction in what was being built. I set a record for a Bored Ape. I purchased one for 10 ETH, which was higher at the time than any other Bored Ape. It was a Bored Ape it's 2488, the Bored Ape that's my avatar. And it was the Bored Ape that I just thought looked the most iconic, was the coolest. The trippy fur, the blue beam eyes, the Hawaiian shirt. I mean, there's no other Bored Ape like it. And so I made a decision to buy that. And I don't know if it was the right decision or not. Shortly after that, things started to go a little quiet, like I was saying, and what I thought I could get for it in the future, well, that feeling started to diminish a little bit. But in the background, more and more people were finding out about Bored Apes, and more people were joining the community and falling in love because what the founders had built had strong integrity. It had a good storyline. The roadmap was still very relevant. People could say, well, yeah, maybe momentum has been lost, but they're still building. And it's very clear what's going to happen in the next year or two. And all of a sudden, it started to pick up again. And then it started to shoot into the stratosphere.
Secondly, Meebits happened. Yeah, remember those weird voxely metaverse avatars we covered a month or so back? Now, Pranksy also went big on those, but there was a big difference here. Meebits came from Lava Labs, the creators of the punk, so this was a blue chip project in the eyes of many. This is where the smart money was going to go because, you know, punks. Lava Labs know what they're doing. Now, the Meebits were sold in a declining price curve, but the majority were bought up around 2.4 ETH, or around 30 times the price of the basic ape. Now, this quickly established the narrative that Meebits were only for the wealthy. Lava Labs themselves bagged ETH worth around $74 million and then went almost completely dark. Meanwhile, punks owners who had been gifted a Meebit were thought to be dumping them below the sale price, and suddenly this felt like the ICO days of old, with privileged private sale owners dumping tokens on the market. And this had the effect of galvanizing the ape community as the project for the people, fair and accessible, while punks and Meebits were for the elites. The underdog narrative is the most powerful one in all of crypto. It defines the relationship between Bitcoin and the establishment, but it also defines the relationship of all shitcoins to BTC, and in particular to Ethereum. And this is the weird mirrored community dynamic at play here. A situation that wasn't exactly calmed by this tweet from, yes, you guessed it, Pranksy. But what was the flippening he was talking about?
I did not start this war.
Well, it's the ground beneath your feet. Literally. You see, it's actually extremely difficult to create price discovery for these collectible NFTs. Valuations tend to be kind of arbitrary, like, yeah, I think this is pretty rare. Some schmuck will probably overpay for it. Let's see what we can get away with. Just, I don't know, 100 ETH, like whatever. Coincidentally, two main tools for ranking rarity appeared kind of almost the same time Bored Apes did: Rarity Tools and NFT EXP, or NFTX. Now, both offer ways of ranking individual items, but neither agree on the right way to do it. And Rarity Tools, for instance, offers not one, but two discrete ways of ranking the data. Basically, it's a woozy, it's a wowzy, it's a kind of a deal. But there is one metric that is completely concrete, knowable, and trackable: the floor. Now, if regular tokens are judged on market cap, collectibles are now judged on the quote-unquote price floor. And if you check on Rarity Tools right now, the quote-unquote price floor of Bored Apes is 3.64 ETH. 3.64 ETH? They were sold for 0.08. Not bad. Now, Discord bots can be programmed to scrape data from OpenSea to tell users the price floor with a simple command. And this whole game of refreshing to see what the floor is became sort of an obsession for the BAYC community. They saw it as their they're challenged to raise their floor above that of the Meebits. And that's the game now. The thing is, the price floor is not actually a floor at all, not really. In economic terms, a floor is a government or group-imposed price control or limit on how low a price can be charged for a product, good, commodity, or service. And that's in order to make sure that you don't get this sort of race to the bottom where people get so heavily priced out of a good or service that those who supply it are no longer able to do so because it's not profitable enough. Now, while of course this community uses every tactic they can to enforce control over the floor by essentially badgering people into not selling or sell-shaming them, you know what it's like. Basically, what we're really talking about here is the lowest asking price. And this is important because that lowest asking price becomes the financial representation of the weakest set of hands in the tribe, the so-called salad hands or paper hands. And the higher the floor, the stronger the tribe feels themselves becoming, because the weakest person in the tribe can be represented with a financial value. Crazy, right? Now, one of the ridiculous meme projects that has grown out of this mania around collectible avatars is Pickles, literally described as a rug pull by its creator, Cole, and members of the Discord channel there just literally hammer that floor command non-stop, celebrating wildly when it goes up because, well, that's kind of all they have. With the current floor price of 3.6 ETH, BAYC has completely crushed the Meebits on this metric, as the Meebits one has dropped to 0.7 ETH. Now it is sort of slowly coming back up, but not really. And all of this wasn't helped by Beeple, who created 2 pieces depicting the 2 tribes at war. I even made a response myself, and while I do think my Meebit is one of the better looking ones out there, I do have to admit the apes just are cooler. They just are. But can you see the essential problem with all this floor worship? The paradox of it, if you like. Yes, by raising the floor, you've priced out the little guys you were initially serving so well when the project launched. The ape floor has now gone past the Meebit sale price that made many feel so excluded from that project. So congratulations, Bored Apes. You are now the elite. And this does help explain why there have been just so many lookalikes coming onto the market recently. There are now 15 new collectibles projects listed on Rarity Tools, all of them trying to capture a slice of the pie. We have Gutter Cats and Cyberkongs and Alien Boys. Wicked Craniums feel very similar with strong art and a darker aesthetic, but let's not kid ourselves, it's the exact same concept. Hodl and On introduces a game element with Scrabble tiles, while Pickles and Bananas are just here for the memes, which is more than enough reason for many to buy them. But Apes has cut right through into celebrity culture, connecting the common apes with the big celebrities they look up to in a weird kind of brotherhood. Mark Cuban is rumored to have an ape of his own, while Gary Vaynerchuk, creator of VFriends, has been chatting in the Discord sharing his. Dapper Labs CEO Rome Garagozlu aped in, and then a few NBA stars did as well. So we've got Rookie of the Year LaMelo Ball, Josh Hart, and Tyrese Halliburton. Philadelphia 76ers president of basketball ops Daryl Morey also recently joined the BAYC, and they're not alone. More are joining every single day. The celebs love it. Crypto investors, or speculators, are a notoriously fickle bunch. They will drop you in a heartbeat if something better or more shiny comes along. So this does raise an interesting question for the Bored Apes Yacht Club, which is, how on earth do you scale it?
We do think there's plenty of room to grow the club within the 10K collection before we look to do something like create another on-ramp toward membership. Our ratio of unique wallets to collection size is already higher than just about any other similar scale NFT collection, but it's still only around 4,300 wallets to 10K NFTs. That's one metric we've really been focusing on to guide us. We want to get as close to 10,000 members in here as possible. We hope that the benefits of membership expand to the point where it just doesn't make sense to hold several apes yourself rather than give one to a friend or allow someone else to buy in. If you can get let into a basketball game by proving you're a Bored Apes member, for example, and you had 2 apes, well, we think you'd end up giving one to your buddy rather than have a second sit idle in your wallet as a speculative vehicle.
So let's consider this. There are 10,000 apes out there, but there are only 4,332 owners when I look today. Even if the project reached a perfect distribution of 1 ape per person, there is an effective hard limit on the number of people who can actually own one. And if the floor continues to rise the way it has been, then the number of potential new owners with the cash to buy one rapidly diminishes as well. So the dogs offer a secondary way to own a piece of the apeverse, but these are already going for 1.5 ETH on OpenSea before they've even been revealed. So what else could they do? Well, another way is to introduce breeding mechanics. Meebit's big sales pitch was the ability to use them as metaverse avatars with 3D files available to use however you saw fit. But the ape community quickly began working on filling out the limbs and full bodies that you couldn't see in the art to allow them to perform the same function, to inhabit their apes in the metaverse. And this exploitation of the source artwork led to the creation and continues to lead to the creation of some truly breathtaking derivatives. And this brings us to a very important legal component to these collectibles, rights ownership, which, let's be honest, is not sexy at all, but it could end up being as profound as George Lucas' famous deal to retain the merchandising rights for Star Wars. Imagine that. So if we dig into the BAYC website, we find the following paragraph: ownership and commercial usage rights given to the consumer over their NFT. So, as an owner of an ape, you have the right to exploit it commercially. To be clear, we're talking about the image of your ape and not the BAYC brand itself, which is governed by a completely different set of rules. What I've observed from NFTs over the last 18 months is that buyers radically underestimate the degree to which the future value of the asset they have bought lies not with the creator, but with them. For example, Lava Labs sold $74 million worth of digital assets, but there is exactly zero obligation on them to do anything with that money that adds any future value to the Meebit brand. That is entirely up to the owners now. Now, the good news is that the commercial rights embedded in ownership means a savvy entrepreneur can do something about this. It's very hard to generate interest and value in an obscure artist, but it is a lot easier to do this when there are thousands of others looking to support and help you and adding value to an overarching brand in their own way as well. So owning an ape essentially makes you a franchise owner.
When you're the owner of an NFT, if you're not empowered to also be a creator and a contributor to the project, that's Web 2. That's thinking about a community in an old school way. The people that will win, the communities that will win and become real big businesses and actually build amazing things are the communities where every single member feels like they have ownership and they can contribute. And all the founders of Bored Apes, all the people that they have hired or made deals with to mod the groups, everyone involved champions that ability for anyone in the group to feel like they're an owner and to contribute ideas. And that energy has caused what Bored Apes is today.
Now, this is nothing new. Hashmasks come with a similar rights package, but interestingly, punks originally did not. That came later, and you can read up on exactly how that was managed in a blog from early 2018 that describes how lawyer Eric Adler designed the license deal for CryptoPunks. And what they eventually landed on was a deal in which Lava Labs LLC would own the copyright, and it would license that copyright out to each crypto owner. Lava Labs would always be the copyright owner, but each crypto owner becomes a crypto licensee. And it's this deal which has become the standard for others to follow. Meebits also come with a commercial license, but the owner can only exploit it to a maximum of $100,000 a year, which sounds a lot at the moment, but imagine this takes off and has its own Instagram account and gets brand deals. That could quickly become a problem. And this is how we arrive at projects like the Boring Coffee Company or the Bored Apes credit card and many more. But one of the most developed secondary properties comes from art critic and NFT collector Beanie in the shape of Punk's comic. Designed as an NFT, token, and DAO project, this is the first proper DeFi-infused execution of the rights license I've seen to date. The comic features famous punks brought to life as fully fleshed out comic book characters, and they were drawn by a genuine comic book legend, Chris Weil, a cover artist for one of my all-time favorite comic book properties, Tank Girl. The illustrations are legit, fleshing out the mythology of these punks into something completely new, and Beanie's now doing the same with the apes for a new piece entitled Ape Madness. The final apes to appear in the comic are now being chosen, And I was struck by one of Beanie's recent tweets. And how this meshes with a recent blog from Kai Sheffield for A16Z's Future Strand entitled Fantasy Hollywood, Crypto and Community-Owned Characters. The idea being expressed here is that community-owned IP can help break the closed loop of audience engagement. So if you think about the cinematic universes of Marvel or Star Wars and Disney, these belong to the corporations, but it's really the fans who are the ones that buy the tickets and the merchandise and make it all possible. So these new models open up greater and more interesting paths to ownership for the people that consume them, you and me. But they can also create potential pitfalls.
We think our terms are pretty clear. Owning the NFT grants you a commercial license to that ape. If you own a Bored Ape, you can mint a derivative of it, print it on a t-shirt, throw it up on a billboard, whatever. We think it makes sense that if you transfer ownership of the NFT on the blockchain away from yourself, you forfeit your right to, say, mint a new version of it. Our intention has always been to empower club members to create with their NFTs. We didn't invent this, and didn't think it was that confusing.
So the thing is, at the moment, the rights around these assets are probably not that robust, and we're already seeing instances of pushback on certain areas where individuals might have overstepped. For now, though, it seems as if the Bored Apes team are open to collaborating with creators who are looking to bring more value. And that's a theme that sort of runs through this project, the sense of a core team that genuinely gives a shit, a community that's also welcoming to new arrivals.
With the IP rights held by ape owners, nothing stops one ape becoming another 10,000 different ones with different poses and visuals. You could put barbecue sauce on that ape and sell him for twice the price. That is up to you. And I like that.
Now, I've been fascinated with these collectible projects for months now, trying to understand the value proposition and where the big players like Pranksy and Beanie fit in.
You ever see that film, Bruce Almighty? Well, they made a second film where Bruce built an ark to ride out the flood. That's what we see right now. Apes is an ark to ride out the flood of other projects coming, looking to ride on their coattails. Now, you know, people ape into these and they're looking to flip it, looking for the next ape market. We've seen it before in NFTs and we'll see it again. There is always space in this market for innovative ideas that are well constructed and thought out. And that is where Pranksy is at. You get me?
The truth is, NFTs are pretty hard work. It's much easier to trade shitcoins if you want to make a quick buck. The criticism of big players like Pranksy or Jimmy or Loopify or whoever, it kind of stems from envy that they have the capital to take these big positions. But the thing is, taking on those big positions means also taking on what I think is disproportionate risk. The weight of a project's success resides heavily with its owners and not its creators. So the larger the position you take, the greater the burden of that responsibility. So what I see is Pranksy attempting to broaden the category, connecting with celebrities, promoting new artists with his NFT boxes. I see Jimmy actively working to bring Meebits into a proper metaverse execution in the sandbox. I see Loopify investing huge amounts of time and money into getting an exciting action-adventure film made starring Meebits and apes. This is hard work, and it's kind of thankless too. But these power owners are power creators, and if they create value, then every owner in the chain benefits from that value in a way that is very hard to find in other types of NFT propositions.
Bored Apes is not only the best community in the NFT space, but they're doing things that no community has ever done before. And it's because of incentive alignment. NFTs allow for any participant to feel like an owner. And when you're a community, you can really direct that towards creating value for everyone involved. That's exactly what the Bored Ape community is doing. Now the community is bigger than it's ever been and still climbing. Sales are every day hitting 50 ETH for an ape, 40 ETH for an ape, 60 ETH for an ape. And I'm just so happy that I followed my conviction. I was able to buy an ape that I thought was really, really special. And now I sold a bunch of apes. I still have a handful that I love the most aesthetically. And it's fun to be in this community every single day and participate with these other apes into having fun conversations, thinking about ideas. And now, of course, the Bored Ape founders have chosen to reward all of these ape owners with their own dogs, which is just the coolest idea. And they're also giving back. which is just a testament to really understanding how to grow a strong community and how to show that you have strong values along the way. And it's something that now even more people are buying into because they realize, hey, these founders are very thoughtful around what they're building.
And one of the most fascinating conversations I had this year was with Ian Rogers from Ledger. And he was telling me about conversations he had with Jimmy Iovine. And he was talking about Jimmy's obsession with work. And he said, Jimmy gets up every day because he's obsessed with leaving his mark on culture. And I get the feeling that these big power creators, rightly or wrongly, have the same obsession. They want to leave their mark on culture in some way. And that is exactly what we're seeing being born here. This is the birth of crypto culture. It's crypto native. It feels true to the community. Now, ultimately, the true test of apes will be a multi-year bear, and whether paper hands or salad hands can protect that all-important flaw. Now, a true price floor, in the economic sense, would be, I guess, a DAO that bands together to set a threshold beneath which apes will be bought up by the DAO. And they would do this to protect the collective value of the apes brand, because to let it fall further would negatively impact the ability of apes owners to subsist based on the IP that they own. Now, the fact we can even think this way is testimony to how far NFTs, DAOs, and DeFi has come. But there is an awful long way to go.
We all belong to a special space and an incredible community where if you're new, you can reach out to anyone who's been here for a long time. Anyone who has a collection of NFTs that they share on Twitter, anyone who's regularly in the Discord groups, and I bet you most of them will be receptive to a conversation and educating and to helping you participate. There's something magical about being early in a space where you know it's going to potentially impact the lives of billions of people in a positive way. All of us feel that. And a collectible project might not feel like it has the impact to change the world, but every time a new project comes, every time someone thinks about something a little more sophisticated or builds tools to help a little bit more people get onboarded, it builds that road to the metaverse.
What we've seen from the Bored Apes team is a willingness and excitement to engage with power creators like Beanie. But what happens if the Apeverse develops into a multi-platform entertainment juggernaut? Would they be so open to collaboration?
There are a lot of things that are wrong with the world, but the metaverse has yet to be built. And we have an opportunity to leave a lot of those problems, especially cultural problems and social problems, in the physical world. Leave that shit in the physical world and let's build a new one together.
We think it's really exciting to see the impact we've had on the space. And we hope that those modeling themselves after our club see their roadmaps through and keep building beyond them.
Now, I can't wait to find out. This has been an absolute privilege to witness. So here I stand, or sit, proud to call myself an ape. Hashtag Cheetah Gang forever. But I'm also open to great ideas wherever they come from. This, him, me, all of us, we are apes, and we are the Defiant. Cheers.